Are you drowning in a sea of if-else statements in your code? It can feel overwhelming, right? If you're struggling with optimizing a large number of conditions, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to simplify your code and make it more efficient. I totally get it. Having to write dozens of if-else conditions can be tedious and confusing. You're not alone in this struggle. Many developers face this issue, and it can lead to bloated code that's hard to maintain. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked, how can I handle multiple if-else conditions without writing excessive lines of code? They mentioned having 5 statements that lead to over 12 conditions. Sound familiar? Let's explore some better options together. So what's the issue with having so many if-else statements? It can make your code hard to read and maintain. Plus, it can lead to performance issues if not handled properly. Let's break down some strategies to optimize your conditions. And stick around. I have a fantastic tip at the end that will help you streamline your code even further. To optimize a large number of if-else expressions, the user should first consider using a switch statement. This can simplify the code and make it more readable. Next, the user can create an array or an object to hold the conditions. This allows for easier management of multiple conditions without repeating code. Then, the user should iterate through the conditions using a loop. This way, they can check each condition dynamically instead of hard-coding each if statement. Finally, the user can define a function to evaluate the conditions. This function will return true or false based on the logic defined, reducing redundancy. Fun fact, did you know that the first programming languages were all about simple commands? We've come a long way, but sometimes simplicity is still the best approach. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user suggests simplifying your if-else statements by removing redundant conditions. They point out that in your second else if, the conditions are already covered by the first if, making it unnecessary. The only relevant check is for lock being less than 0. Similarly, in the last else if, only checking if cat is less than 0 is needed. That's it for that response. Let's explore another one. An alternative approach to optimizing multiple if-else statements is to use bit manipulation. By shifting individual condition results into bits, you can combine them into a single number for a switch statement. This method reduces redundancy and simplifies the code. To enhance readability, you can define constants for each condition's bit value. This makes the switch statement clearer and easier to understand. That wraps up that answer. Let's move on to another one. An alternative approach suggests grouping conditions using numeric values for each possible output. By using binary representation, you can simplify the logic. For example, each variable can be assigned a binary value based on its condition. You can create a function to handle the conditions and then sum the binary values. Finally, use a switch statement to manage the different cases based on the total value. If there are more than 2 options for a variable, you can adapt the method to use base 10 instead of binary. This allows for more complex condition handling. Now, let's dive into a different answer from another user. An alternative approach suggested by a user is to simplify your if-else statements by using a switch case structure. They recommend checking the fixed conditions first, and then using a switch case for the variable conditions. Here's the tip I promised. Always aim for clarity in your code. Simplifying your conditions not only makes your code easier to read, but also easier to debug and maintain in the long run. And there you have it. By using switch statements or arrays, you can significantly reduce the complexity of your code. Remember, clean code is happy code. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button for more coding tips, and don't miss our next video on advanced optimization techniques.